Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Rob Cray, and I guess I just decided to do a little podcast just to kind of, I guess, vent on some things. Um, and if any of you subscribe to me on Facebook, you obviously know that I tend to rant on Facebook about politics and other things. So I figure, why not just do a little podcast? Just kind of a stream of thought type of thing to just kind of get my thoughts and ideas out there. I think it's kind of therapeutic to do that. But I have a lot of opinions. I'm a very opinionated guy. Now, I'm not the most intelligent guy in the world. I don't try to pretend to be that. But I definitely feel very passionate about a lot of things. So, and maybe sometimes I'm wrong. Definitely that's probably part of the case. But I definitely think I'm right sometimes too. And, I look out at the world and I just see so many things that bother me, nowadays. And I just feel like, sometimes I just got to talk about it. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I've lost a lot of friends on Facebook because of that, especially during the election stuff. I'm political to begin with, but during the election, I was extremely political. And, if you didn't already know, I'm a MAGA guy. I was a big Trump supporter. Trump wasn't actually my first choice during the election. Originally, I was I was rooting for Rand Paul, and in previous elections, I had supported his father because I kind of, consider myself to be, I guess, a libertarian. Over the past few years, I kind of, growing up, I guess I was more, traditional kind of Republican right wing. Over, recent years, I've kind of started to kind of move more to the center. And I think I'm still kind of at the center. I think, with the Trump election, I think I've kind of gone a little more right again. But overall, I think, I like to think that I'm a pretty moderate guy. I've got friends that are extremely conservative and they think that I'm liberal. And then, of course, my liberal friends think that I'm, some kind of extreme right winger. So I guess it's all just a matter of opinion and perception. But yeah. So I just kind of wanted to, maybe do this and kind of talk about certain subjects that I'm kind of passionate about or that I just kind of want to vent on. And right now there's just so much going on. Obviously since Trump was elected, things have just kind of gone haywire. But I think today I kind of want to talk about, the media in light of the Charlottesville rally. I look on Facebook and I'm just blown away by the biased coverage. Actually, I take that back. I'm not blown away by that biased coverage. I worked a little background about myself. My background is actually in video production. So, I kind of had I went to college. My goal was to become a filmmaker. So I went to school and studied film. Of course, nothing really came out of that. It's kind of hard to get into the film industry. I kind of stopped making films and then moved into more like video production stuff, which led me into the news industry because, that was just kind of what was available here I live in Tampa Bay, Florida. So yeah, I started working in news and I really enjoyed it at first. I worked in production, and one thing about news is the production department is basically like your kind of working, blue collar working class people that operate the cameras and push the buttons behind the scenes to make all the stuff happen. Then you have the newsroom. Now the newsroom is where all the editorial decisions come from. And this is where people, the people in the newsroom are the ones that decide what stories to run with. So the people in the newsroom are really, who are responsible for what you see on TV. And they make decisions every day. And unfortunately, in the news industry, a lot of times, you see so much violence and hatred and negativity in the news. And the reason for that is because that's what sells, okay? At the end of the day, if we had, if the news industry published feel-good stories all the time, I don't think anyone would really watch. So they instead go for what, sells. And, as they say, sex sells. And that's true for TV. It's sex sells. It's, insanity sells. Violence sells. So they tend to focus on those stories because that's what, gets your attention. That's what grabs your attention and makes you watch. So if you ever wonder why certain stories are picked for the news, that's why. Now, one thing about how, one interesting thing about how the news works, okay, is like, for example, I worked for ABC. I worked for an ABC affiliate. So ABC network sends down all day long. They're sending down video, of all the major events that are happening nationally. So, say this rally in Charlottesville. They would send down all the footage that they had recorded to all the affiliates around the country. And then, of course, they send down stories, all the major stories that are going on nationally and globally. And then, of course, the job of the affiliate is to, cover local news. So anything that's not local is coming down from the network. Now, that means that automatically there's a bias built into these stories, because when the video is sent down, they also send down a script. And of course, the script was written by somebody at the network. So, of course, the people who work the network, if they have an agenda, it's going to carry over into the script. And then the people in the affiliate stations who then take that information and rewrite it are, of course, going to, most of the time, keep that bias if there is one. That's why I had a problem working in news. I worked in news for 7 years, and I recently quit working in news because I just got sick after the election. Like, I had seen kind of this stuff going on. I knew that, the media leaned left. But having worked in the media for so long, and, this past election, I just saw it just really kind of took a nosedive. Like, there'd always been a bias, but I really felt that this past election, it wasn't just a bias. It was an agenda to destroy Donald Trump and to sway the votes towards the left. So I was really, obviously offended by that. And working in news, I was kind of, especially in the newsroom, like working in production, like I said, with people who operate the equipment and stuff. Those people, the button pushers, tend to be more conservative. When I worked in production, a lot of the people I worked with were conservative. But when I made the switch over to the newsroom, I was in the minority big time. There were, out of, dozens of people, there were maybe a couple of us that were conservative. And honestly, I felt like I was constantly attacked. People would act like I was stupid, because I supported Trump. They would question my every thought process. Like, so why do you believe this? Why do you believe that? And I would explain to them, and they would just kind of look at me like I was stupid, and it was really degrading, and I just got tired of it. And so I just felt, I decided to join the military. So I had signed up to join the Army. It was a lifelong dream of mine. Unfortunately, I quit my job. Well, I guess it's unfortunately but fortunate also. But long story short, I quit my job, a couple weeks before I was supposed to go into basic training. That was earlier this year. And unfortunately, a couple days before I was supposed to, I was scheduled to go to basic training, I had my bags packed and everything. My recruiter calls, and I find out that I had actually failed this flight physical due to high blood pressure. I have a family history of high blood pressure. And so basically I was kind of SOL, I quit my job, and then I wasn't able to go into the military because of my high blood pressure. So I lost everything at that point, and, but in a way I was really glad, because like I said, it kind of gave me the nudge to get out of news that I've been, it paid good. I worked in there for a long time because honestly I had no other job lined up, and it paid pretty decent. But every day I came home and felt dirty. Like I felt like I was part of the propaganda machine. And so in that respect, I'm glad that, all this kind of transpired because, now I no longer work in the news industry. And I can kind of share, which I'm doing now, kind of my experiences in the news industry. So anyway, I apologize. I might kind of, go talk in circles sometimes or go off topic. I apologize. But so I was, talking about how, the news comes down. So ABC also pays CNN for their content. So how that works is, CNN basically licenses, all their content to all the other networks. So ABC actually runs CNN content, but they, of course, tend to, like, say if we run a package. Here's some news terms for you real quick. A package is basically like a long form news segment. So if you see like a reporter segment, where they that's a minute or two long, that's called a package. One story that's more than like a minute or two long. Then they have what are called, SOTs, and that's a sound on tape, which is usually like a sound bite of someone talking, and then they go back into the story. It's really common. And then VO is a voiceover. And basically what that is just like a quick story. Now, news stories tend to run, about 20 to 30 seconds. That's kind of what they, ideally want. And so all these stories come down from CNN too. Now, I was warned from day one, when I started working in the newsroom, that CNN, to be careful about CNN material, because CNN material isn't trustworthy. And the reason is because they would constantly make factual mistakes. And so I was warned from day one that if you use CNN content, to make sure that you double check everything. So right away, even within people in the industry, like, they just don't trust CNN, because CNN, you've heard people in the media, or people that Trump supporters, I should say, call CNN fake news. And it's true. And I have a million examples of CNN's bias, but one in particular I remember was it was during like one of the a couple years ago, there was one of the black teens that got shot, and basically there was like protests and riots afterwards, and they were burning down the city and stuff. So I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was, one of those, the one that happened in Missouri. I can't remember the kid's name. But long story short, they did a package where they interviewed like the mother or the sister. And basically, they said, the quote said something like, the SOT that they used said something like, don't attack our city, or don't destroy our city. And so that was all they used, right? And they put her in a sympathetic light, like she was trying to stop the violence. In reality, the actual SOT that they cut from had her saying something like, don't burn down our city, go to their city, referencing white people, go to their city and burn their, quote, shit down. So they completely changed the meaning of that SOT. Now, they cut it down to obviously make it sympathetic towards that person. If they had run the full SOT, I think that it would have been shown in a completely different light. That's just one example of the kind of thing that I saw in the media. Everything has a very leftist slant to it. It's true. Like, anytime that you hear someone say the media is biased, or that the media is, leftist, so true. The only network that's not is Fox. And I'm not a huge, Fox fan either, because I think, the problem with Fox is that Fox is too right, and that they aren't, I want to see like news coverage that doesn't have a bias. I want to see people report the facts for what they are, without a bias and without an agenda. But unfortunately, most of the news networks have a leftist agenda, and then you have Fox, which tends to have a right agenda. So it goes both ways, I guess. But at the end of the day, there's one network that's, quote, conservative, and there's like, multiple networks. The majority of networks are liberal. And, most publications out there, even not just news publications, tend to be leftist. So we're definitely outnumbered in that regard. But, so yeah, I just kind of, like I said, I just wanted to kind of talk about the media, my experiences with it. And, like I said, if any of you doubt that there's a bias in the media, you're wrong. There definitely is a bias in the media. And I'll be the first to admit that, yes, there's a bias with Fox News. It's true. But, I tend to watch Fox just because Fox is, of course, more aligned with my viewpoint. But I definitely see the bias there. Like, I wish that they would have more liberal reporters and maybe give both sides of the story. I feel like that's the true job of the media is to not have an opinion when it comes to reporting. Like their opinion shouldn't matter. They should report the facts as they are and just let it be. Let other people make their own decisions about it, not sway people a certain direction, which is what the media does nowadays. I don't know what happened, but at some point, especially over the past 8 years, it's really gotten a lot worse. I think the media, Hollywood, any kind of media organization has always tended to be more leftist. Okay. But I feel like now in the past few years, especially, it's gotten much, much worse. And this media coverage right now about about Trump is a prime example. I think it's completely unfair the way that they treat Trump. Regardless of whether you like the guy or not. I mean, it's completely unfair. And I don't even think Fox News definitely reported negatively about Obama when he was in office, but not to the extent that we have this just mass media campaign against Trump. Every story is blown out of proportion. I'll probably do some other podcasts on some of these specific issues, but one that comes to mind is the other day, this conversation or these threats, I should say, back and forth between Kim Jong-un and President Trump. People act like this is something new. And, of course, the media is going all out, accusing Trump of, stirring the pot, of trying to start a nuclear war, of, being too hard on North Korea. The way that they're even running stories about bomb shelters and stuff to scare people. It's pathetic. And the fact of the matter is that this has happened. I don't know if people have short-term memories or what, but the North Korea thing has been going on for as long as I can remember. It seems like every couple of years, if you haven't been watching the news, maybe you haven't seen it, but even President Obama made threats to North Korea. And, I don't have a quote in front of me, but I remember him specifically saying that, basically if you go up against the United States, it's not going to end well for you, So this is nothing new. It's just scare tactics. It's the media, they don't like Trump. They are still blown away by the fact that he actually won the election. And they're doing everything in their power to sway the opinions of the American people to be negative about the president. So that way during the next election, they can get another left-wing extremist in office. So, yes, the media is biased. And I know firsthand because I worked in the media and I have since left because I don't want to be a part of that anymore. Maybe I'll return if, things change, but I don't see that happening in the future. They basically push you out if you don't agree with their agenda. They don't want you there. They only want to fill their ranks with people that have the same opinions as they do. And, I got by for a long time because I used to not talk about politics. I tried to just keep my mouth shut, do my job. But over time, I saw it get worse and worse, and I started speaking out. And, I think they kind of were gunning for me. There definitely were a lot of people there that, didn't like me because of my opinions. But, if anyone tells you that there's not a bias in the media, they're lying to you. There definitely is. And if you have any questions about, kind of how the media works, I can definitely answer those and give you a little more details on that. But, real quick before I go, another big one I wanted to mention, when I was working the media was, there was an anti-gun agenda. There's always been an anti-gun agenda, in the media. And so, of course, in recent years with some of these mass shootings and stuff, they were perpetrated with an AR-15 rifle. And so, of course, there was this whole media campaign against the AR-15, trying to get that banned, calling for, new gun restrictions and stuff. And the AR-15 is not an assault rifle, okay? An assault rifle is technically anything that's fully automatic. AR-15 is a semi-automatic weapon, and it has over the years that they've actually dumbed it down quite a bit. As far as like smaller and smaller or laws against magazine capacity and stuff. So sure, you can kill a good number of people with it, but at the end of the day, it's not an assault rifle, and they use that language to try to scare people and make it sound scary. And the funny thing is they don't even attack like other firearms. Like there are other firearms of the same caliber with the same magazine capacity. The difference is they just look more like standard rifles instead of, quote, assault rifles, like M16s or something. Because the AR-15 has that kind of style. So they don't go after those guns. They just go after the big, scary AR-15, But yeah, so it's kind of ridiculous. But I don't know. There's definitely a bias in the media, and anyone who tells you there isn't is a liar. So thanks a lot, guys. That's kind of my rant on that. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.